folks, so I thought I would do a year in review video for Plant One On Me. Now, this is something that I've never really done before, but we are approaching very closely to 5 years running Plant One On Me here. So I thought 5 years is a nice stopping point to just reflect and see what we've accomplished and done on Plant One On Me, and also take a look into what's ahead, because there's been a lot of changes through the last year or so, and not only in my life, but also everyone's lives, and I don't have to go into the pandemic too much, but obviously that really challenged many of us in so many different ways. I mean, even our videos that we've shot for Plant One On Me have vastly changed. It was very hard for us to actually do tours, and tours were a big portion of Plant One On Me. So this year we were happy to actually have done some of the tours that we did. So if I could just think about, I recently went to Detroit, filmed at the Belle Isle Conservatory, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, Jeremy is just a hoot, and Pavo, the cat, is just glorious. I've never had a cat stick with us for the full time to do a whole conservatory tour. So that was really, really enjoyable. And I also got a chance to go out and see Telly's greenhouse in Troy, Michigan. And I had just been in Michigan for only 24 hours because I had to hightail it to Missouri, where I had a gig there. And I got to film, quite a bit in Missouri as well. So you'll be seeing some of those videos pop up in 2022. So just a little insight into what's to come. But you've seen some of those videos now too here on Plant One On Me as well. So some released in 2021, and we'll have some next year. But talk about Telly's greenhouse. I was shocked. I mean, how many times did I say like, wow, or amazing in that film? I mean, I was just gobsmacked at how the diversity of really interesting plants that he had there, really highly coveted plants, but a lot of those plants way outside of my plant budget that I would allow myself for. So, but very nice to see those plants, knowing that I don't have to have all those plants. It's just really nice to see them. And as you could tell, I have been filming a lot more here in the flock house. So some of you may already know, probably most of you actually know, that my friends and I went in on a communal piece of land together in upstate. And this is the common house. This is what will become the common house. And this house has to go under some renovation. And we wanted to actually do that in basically this year, but it was really hard to find contractors. So we ended up working a lot more in the landscape, which is really wonderful, because anybody who loves planting outside or is interested about that, there's a lot of that content that I'm putting on the Flock Finger Lakes channel on YouTube. And you could see that I started to have more plants. If you see any of those videos or the videos that I'm shooting here, you'll notice that more and more plants are coming here. And I am trying my dangest not to actually bring a lot of plants here, because it has to go under renovation. I want to be able to bring plants over slowly. I don't want to have to bring them all over at once. So it's helpful to have some plants here. It really warms up the space. I mean, this area is not going to be renovated so much, but it feels like home when I could bring plants here. It's just really marvelous. So you'll notice that I will be filming a lot more here and not necessarily in my Brooklyn apartment, even though I still live in my Brooklyn apartment officially. But there's two reasons for that. One is because the camera equipment is here. So that makes it a little more challenging. I mean, of course I could film on my iPhone and do things like that, but the sound is not as great as the quality as I think we have all come to appreciate. And the image quality is not going to be as good. And my camera operator is also here, and that's Sonder. And he doesn't like to actually have to travel back to New York to film. So I'm kind of left with filming here. But I don't even have all my collection of plants over here, so it makes it a far more challenging. So if I know I want to cover a topic, oftentimes I'll schlep that plant from Brooklyn over to here so I could actually talk about it a bit more. So it's been a little challenging logistically from that standpoint. And on the topic of, Sonder being here and the camera equipment being here, I also want to free up some of Sonder's time. I mean, he was very gracious in coming and filming for Plant One On Me, and I think many of you have enjoyed and benefited from his great camera work and being able to see the plants up close and traveling with us on tours. But I'm going to try to alleviate some of his duties on Plant One On Me. So I'll be filming a bit more of myself, by myself, and that will also make it a bit more logistically challenging for me. But I think I'm up for the task. And I talked about it with him, and this is not his sole focus in life, and he has other career objectives and other things that he does. And he also films a lot for the Flock Finger Lakes channel. So it's just a lot for any one person to actually take on. So hopefully I could alleviate some of his work for Plant One On Me. He's not going to be totally extracted from the scene. So if we do tours and stuff like that, then he'll probably join in on some of those tours. But just wanted to let you know so you know what to expect. And again, it's just about checking in with your friends and your partners and things along those lines in order to be able to understand whether they're fulfilling their fullest selves and you're fulfilling your fullest self. So, I'll leave it at that. And I'll have some of this tea, by the way. This has been steeping for a bit too long. I've never made this concoction before, so I've been playing a lot more with herbs here. One of the great benefits of actually being here at Flock is just, I wrote about this in my book, How to Make a Plant Love You, but the opening scene is running through the woods, as a kid. And I really just love being out here. I feel way more connected to nature. It's so calming. Just being able to put my hands in soil. It's priceless. I can't even put a price tag on that. So this is eventually going to be our forever homes up here. So I want to prepare you that as I'm filming more here and filming a little less in Brooklyn, that some of you might have a little nostalgia for my Brooklyn place, but I have to tell you, I am just like so much infinitely happier being out in nature, being close to nature, and being able to design landscapes. So there's a lot of that excitement that I'm sharing, like I said, on the sister channel at Flock Finger Lakes. But Plant One On Me will absolutely continue forward. We will totally have houseplants here. Our plan is to build a greenhouse for some of my houseplants, because that is going to be one way that I could actually bring all my plants here, is I could stash them in a greenhouse temporarily, and then as we renovate and or start building more infrastructure, I could bring more of the plants into the home. But otherwise, it'll just be like absolute chaos if I had all my plants here now. Okay, let's try this. Oh wow, that is, I made this very strong. This is a strong tea. Ooh, that is a complex flavor. It's very good. It's very, how can I say this? Well, I could tell that the strength of the flavor is coming from, so let me step back. I'll tell you what I put into this. I put in lemongrass, so you can see it's a little funky. That lemongrass is a little funky, but lemongrass, peppermint, elecampane, yarrow, elderberry flowers. Did I say peppermint? I can't remember if I said peppermint. And a little tulsi, holy basil. Oh, and Pinus strobus, white pine. So it's really, it's very pungent. So I think the strength of the flavor comes, and a little bit of honey, by the way. So the strength of the flavor really comes from peppermint and the pine. Like that is a real fragrant element of it. But the elecampane I could still taste in there. I think the kind of earthy tones. Oh, I forgot, I put hawthorn flowers in there. Hawthorns are very good for if you have, like a little heart murmur, or if your heart skips a beat, which mine does sometimes. So it's very complex. I put a lot more herbs in there than I typically do. Oftentimes I'm like a 2 or 3 kind of herb gal, or straight up peppermint, maybe with lemongrass or whatnot. But this one was a much more complex flavor. I'm not dissatisfied with this. This is actually quite good. But I think when you become a tea drinker, you just, you begin to, it's so easy to begin to experiment. Especially I have a bunch of loose herbs, and so I've been playing with that a lot more. I'll probably feature more of that on, flock finger lakes. Again, I think that when I'm thinking about flock finger lakes and I'm thinking about Plant One On Me is going to be, there's going to be overlap for sure. And there's some that I like to cross over on Plant One On Me and some that I like to cross over on flock finger lakes. But to me, it feels very clear in my head because I want to concentrate more on houseplants or like botanical tours, mainly for conservatory plants that you would often see as houseplants in the home. That kind of stuff, houseplant home tours, things like that. Home renovations when it comes to houseplants, those things to me easily fit into Plant One On Me. And then with flock finger lakes, when we talk about just straight up home renovations or landscaping outside, or featuring somebody who's doing permaculture, or if you talk about communal living or co-housing, things like that, that's clearly going to be, flock finger lakes. And yes, there's going to be crossover, and not everybody who does houseplants is going to like the outdoor plants, but I think that having those 2 different channels and exploring those 2 different realms of my own interests and personality makes it feel really fulfilling to me. And I wanted to show you this because this is a project that I'm currently working on now. This is like some of the little artwork that I'm doing. You may have seen this on Instagram or whatever, but this is just like me and my markers. But this is the native pollinator meadow that we're going to be putting in here at Flock Finger Lakes. So this is really exciting for me because, again, for those of you who may have read my book, How to Make a Plant Love You, you probably know me a little bit more intimately because it was a very intimate book. But I did actually habitat restoration when I was a teenager. So it was something that I learned. It's something that I trained for in college. And it's not something that I really pursued after college so much. So it's very interesting to be able to flex those muscles again. And I'm really, enjoying that. But anyway, I have some notes here because I wanted to follow these things, but I'm kind of jumping all over the place, so I'm sorry for that. Oh yeah, the plant care guides. So plant care guides, I absolutely love doing. I did more of those in the beginning of the year, if you recall. I think I did syngoniums, and I had aloes, and I had aglaonema, and a number of others. And I really enjoy doing those, but I think I'll probably pick those back up when I have more of my plants in one place, because I really like to highlight the different genera of plants and the different types of species within a specific genus. And I think that's really helpful because I could share more of my observations of a specific kind of species within that genus, but take the total sum of the genera as a whole. But I think I just have to kind of be patient with that. And like I said, when some of the plants move up here a bit more, I could actually highlight more of those. The other things related to the tours is the houseplant home tours. My gosh, I just really love doing those because yes, it's about the plants, but it's also about the people who love them. And that's, one of the goals and the visions of Plant One On Me is highlighting the plants that we love and the people who love those plants. And that really becomes encapsulated in the houseplant home tour, because I always like to tell a more human story of the folks that we're featuring. And I think that that's a way for us to really connect and resonate with someone that we may or may not know on the small screen, for instance. And, of course we could kind of connect with people over plant love, but there might be some other aspects of that person or that person's personality that you really connect with, or maybe you don't jive with, and that's okay too. But I also love looking when I go on home tours, seeing how people approach their plants. There's no one way to approach plants in your home. And I think that's beautiful. Some folks, might approach plants more as decor, whereas others are approaching them more as a business where they're doing like propagation and they have everything set up in like, plastic containers or whatever along those lines that maybe doesn't look like decor. So there's this kind of balance and this spectrum of how people are working with plants and living with plants and playing with plants and all that other kind of stuff. So I really enjoy that, and I'm glad that we could bring many different types of voices and kinds of people who just happen to love plants to here on Plant One On Me. So I hope to continue more of that. And I know that, being able to do that over the pandemic, it was cut short a little bit, but luckily we've been able to pick that up a bit more. Same thing with the tours. And I do think, I will say this about the tours because I forgot to say it, but are we going to be doing more tours in 2022? I actually don't know. I don't know what is in store. And part of it is I just love being here. I love being here at Flock. I travel back and forth between Brooklyn and here. So my travel is really in those capacities. Like I'm not really traveling so much outside any longer. And it's really hard to convince Sonder to part from Flock as well, because he's kind of like the manager right here now. And he loves actually being here as well, so I hate to pull him away. Again, it's just about understanding your friends and appreciating where they're at in their lives. So I think if I do any tours, it's, in the past, I've always done tours associated with like a gig that I'm doing, because it's just economically more feasible for us to do that. It's really hard to invest in traveling, and I know I get so many requests to travel to so many different places, and you guys are all so beautiful. And thank you so much. You're so like open and wanting to like facilitate the travel. But a lot of times that travel ends up becoming hundreds to thousands of extra dollars because you just start to factor in flights and hotels. I'm not necessarily like, I'm in my 30s now. I'm not like necessarily couch surfing as much. And meals and transportation and all that other kind of stuff. So it really does kind of add up over time. So I do try to piggyback on top of other gigs that I might be doing. And with the pandemic, it's like a lot of those gigs just kind of like stopped. So you couldn't really piggyback filming on top of that, right? So in many ways, you'll probably be seeing more videos here. So you'll be seeing this as a backdrop, or maybe when it's not snowing outside, because it's snowing right now, when it's in the warm weather, you'll actually see, me going outside more and maybe talking about houseplants and things along those lines. So yeah, I mean, there's so much kind of going on. I mean, being between two places is joyful, but it's taxing as well. And I don't know. I'm loving life. I'm loving life, and I hope that comes across also in the films. But that is a little bit of a year in review. What else can I cover? Oh, the Houseplant Masterclass scholarships. So I know a number of you have taken my online houseplant courses, so thank you for that. That really helps facilitate all these videos here as well. And we were able to do Houseplant Masterclass courses for those in need. So we had a number of applicants, which is really wonderful. And that sponsorship was sponsored by Espoma, who has been a wonderful partner here and makes a wonderful line of products for both home gardening and outdoor gardening as well. And we will continue that for 2022, which is just really wonderful. So for those of you who are looking for a scholarship or who may not be able to afford the Houseplant Masterclass, then that is something to look out for later next year, so in 2022. The other thing that you may have not seen, but we did a plant smuggling episode here because as the interest in plants has grown over the last number of years, there has unfortunately been more wild harvesting of rare and unique plants. There's been a black market that has opened up for plants, which is really unfortunate. And I think that many of us, love plants and don't want to actually intentionally hurt a species, but there's not a lot of transparency when it comes to plants and plants in the market. So watch that video if you haven't yet, because it just allows us to be more aware. And we are donating 1% of our Google AdSense revenue on this channel back to plant conservation. So I talked with Liz from Bee Willow, who has been one of, I guess I could say, like one of the poster childs, or the poster children, I guess, a poster child for plant conservation, because she was one of the first plant shops to come out and talk out about this and also give back to plant conservation, and actually helped get some of those wild cacti that had been stolen by folks back into the wild, which is amazing. And just some of her sponsorship dollars were able to actually do that. So if you don't know about that story, it's in the New York Times. It's an older story in the New York Times, but I would highly recommend actually just learning a bit more about that and coming together as a community and seeing what we can actually do together. So one of the things that inspired me from Liz was her doing that. So I wanted to give a percentage back of our Google AdSense revenue back to plant conservation. So we'll also be doing it to the same place on the cactus and succulent group. And you could find out more about that on her website and on mine. And then maybe as the years unfold, we'll choose different plant conservation groups. It really depends. I mean, I started doing research on different plant conservation groups, and there's not that many, unfortunately, out there. For as much as plants have people's love and attention, a lot of conservation dollars don't go to plants. In many cases, it goes to the charismatic megafauna that are out there, animals and hot button topics like climate change and things along those lines. So we often forget about, our beloved plants. So I think it's good that we could actually use our collective love and our collective resources in order to be able to help plants in places that we love and to ensure their survival over the years, and to also ensure that our love for plants are not actually hurting them as well. But I guess I'll leave it to you guys now, because I jabbered way too long. But what would you like to see? What would you like to see more of? I want to obviously take that into consideration. And I know not all of us are going to be the type of people who comment down below on YouTube videos. I'm not somebody who does a lot of commenting on YouTube videos, and I can appreciate that. But if you want to, please share what you've really enjoyed in the past over these almost 5 years that we've been doing this here. And what more would you like to see? Are there things that you watch in other places that you really enjoy that you'd like to see more of? Are any of you tuning into Flock? What do you like about that channel? Do you think that there's enough differentiation between Flock and here? I mean, just tell me what's on your mind and what makes a difference in your lives and what's meaningful for you, because again, that's really helpful for me to hear, because I know what brings me to life. I know what the content that I like to watch. But if there's something that really resonates with you, that brings more meaning and helpfulness into your life, then let me know, because that's the kind of stuff that I probably like to do too.